All right, to do the shading, I'm going to use a vertical lined thumbprint. So it looks kind of like this. It's kind of like a pear shader, but long and skinny. And it has vertical lines in it. And when I'm doing my sunflowers, I don't know how other people do them. This is how I do them. I first start around the center and work my way up. And then later I'll come back down. So I try to match the tool end to the amount of space I have here. And theoretically, that's going to be behind my seeds later. And then I just try to fade that up. I try to imagine what a flower would really look like, you know, where you would see some darkness, where you'd see some lines, where those would flow to. And later there will be more beveling because I'll do some edge beveling to get that edge that we cut with the easy border. Now this one, that's pretty tiny. So if you didn't have a super tiny one, then I would just start beveling up here, or don't cut it so small. But you know, sometimes it just happens. So we'll just use this little tiny guy. And not worry that there's tool marks, because then we'll go back to our regular size and sort of fade those in. And you didn't even notice. And I'll get that guy here in a second. Now that we've got all those top petals, these petals that are behind, sit down behind, and you could cut them coming in and then try to background in there, but it's pretty tiny space. I don't think it's really worth the trouble. And just fade that on up. This part here is a little tight. Like this tool doesn't fit very good in there. So if I go to the skinny side, I can get it to fit between those. Again, when you're drawing, you could, or cutting, you could make life a little easier on yourself. Not do like I do. And then in here, you know, we've got this petal coming over and this one going under, which creates, you know, interest. But you don't want to get your shading from this petal I'm on any of the other ones. Well, that would just be unfair. Okay, then you would flip it around, and then you can choose which size. So I have several sizes. I think this bigger one's a number 2. We could probably make that one work. So when I come up from the center, I try to come up the center of the petal, and then when I'm up here, then I try to go around the edges. Just create a little bit of depth there. Maybe the petals are turning a little bit, or I do try to keep my lines pointed towards the center. And then like in this one, where there's this little whoop, I would try to be pretty dark right there and then fade up. Because if that's sticking up, then the flower should kind of be up. So I would be very light right there, and then we can come back to this other side. It's really interesting how your leather and the burnish in it, and then, you know, how much burnish you get in certain areas can really make these come alive. It's pretty wild. That's that process. So then, you know, you just continue several more times until you get all that done. So my next step will be, we can do the centers next. That'll be a pretty short step. We might have to do 2 steps when we get there.